It's supposed to feel.
Welcome to the post-game show for North Shore 9, everyone. The Pirates win their first season series since June, which was also against the San Diego Padres. The Pirates win 3-2 today. Doug will be on with us shortly. He's still rushing home. But yeah, really good win today, all things considered. With a little bit of a heart attack. You didn't really want Bednar to go do all that, but a win's a win. Bednar gets his 15th, 16th save in a row. And yeah, it's always nice to talk about a win. I think there have been 5 wins in the month of July for the Pirates. I've been on 3 of them, so I think I should get a pay increase. Now, I think the big news. I think we'll start with the pitching because we have the paradox of Johan Oviedo. Because Oviedo will go from the best pitcher you've ever seen to something that was the worst pitcher you've ever seen. And today was one of the best performances. 6 really good innings. Like, he looked awful that first inning. No other word about it. Like, he was terrible. He couldn't get set. He was working too fast. He got called for 3 separate pitch violations. But then he really settled in. The Padres, after that first inning, looked hopeless against Oviedo for the most part. And, those are the kind of performances you need. And, there's always that ongoing discussion about Oviedo, about moving him into the bullpen. And there's a world where Oviedo is an all-star reliever. But for this team, and with just how bad the young pitching has been. The young pitching has been so bad. Ortiz doesn't look good. Contreras doesn't look good. Priester, we talked about Priester on Monday. You're not too confident. I think until you find 4 better arms, you have to keep Oviedo in that rotation, especially for games like today. Because not only, maybe you don't like the strikeouts today, but only 3 hits, only 5 hard hit balls. And after the first inning, he was kind of cruising. So, I think that is something that you need. Young pre-arbitration starting pitching, even as a back end starter, is just so valuable in this league. That you have to keep him into the rotation. I don't see a future where he's the 8th inning guy, even though he would be a fantastic 8th inning guy. Like, if the Pirates rotation was good enough, you can see something where you go like to the 2015 years where you're going from Oviedo or even Holderman to Oviedo to Bednar. That would be fantastic. I don't think we have the arms for that, though. And then maybe if you throw in Majinski in there to do the 6th, like, you have 4 really good pitchers that you can reliably go to, like, shut the door on games. But until then, Oviedo has to be part of the rotation. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Unfortunately, I think if he does not get anywhere near consistent, he's going to be a back-end starter, which is a shame because he has really filthy stuff. I mean, like, 4 pitch mix, really nasty slider. He has a good curveball. It's just, he just can't put it together. And I'm going to get to this because Doug and I touched on this a lot. And in the lack of power on this Pirates team is killer. It is absolutely killer. And so when the offense is terrible, and let's make no mistake, the offense was terrible today. Um, what was it? We had 5 hits. Every single person in the lineup struck out at least once. 10 strikeouts again. It was not good. The offense looked lost for 95% of this game. But as Doug and I have talked about, if you have the ability to hit home runs, you can bail your offense out. You can bail out games and win games that you don't have business winning. Like today, we got 3 solo home runs, 1 from Reynolds, 1 from Santana, and 1 from Choi. 254. Outside of those 4, there was exactly 1 hit. So when the offense is bad and it's a close game, the pitching is locked down. This helps so much. And, it's hard to expect Carlos Santana and G-Man Choi to be your power hitters because they're not really power hitters. They hit you 20 home runs in a year in a good year, but usually they're like 15 to 20 home run guys, and you need more than that. But, we'll get into that. Santana's hard because I think a lot of teams will want him for the intangibles. Unfortunately, you have to look at it this way. He's a 37-year-old first baseman who doesn't have a whole lot of power. Yes, he has been pretty on fire recently, and he has clutch hits. But in terms of value, what is the rental price of a 37-year-old first baseman with no power is not going to fetch you a whole lot. Like, you're not getting a Quintana type return. I see more likely that Choi goes anyway. Where he goes, I have no idea. But I think the Pirates really, really like Santana's leadership. But I don't, he's not going to get you anything special. Like, unfortunately, like neither Choi or Santana are both rentals, and they're both pretty average MLB players, which look great on the Pirates because the Pirates don't have a whole lot of average MLB players. But if you put Choi or Santana on a team like the Braves or the Dodgers, how many starts are they realistically getting? They're probably a bench player, and that's how teams are. And so, not a whole lot. And, Santana, I think I've said this, I'll say this again. Whenever the offense hits, it's when Santana's hitting. Does it again. His 3rd home run of the series, though. Like, that's huge. We probably get swept without Carlos Santana's offense. Yeah, I mean, I it's kind of like the JT Brubaker thing, right? Where like either the defense or the offense is always atrocious when they pitch. Yeah, Oviedo gets a lot of bad luck, but it was just enough today to where, and I think Santana stays ultimately. I think Choi is the one to go. I would prefer they kept both because, again, who are you getting? You're probably getting more. It's probably going to be more like the Tyler Anderson trade than the Jose Quintana trade, if you're being honest about how valuable these guys are. I don't think Rich Hill gets a whole lot either, which is why, even though he's frustrating to watch, I want him to stay because we need people to eat innings, and I would rather win games than lose them. Like, to be completely honest, like the amount I care about the 2024 lottery position is so low. And I agree with this. No reason to trade either of them. Yeah, you try to bring back one of them at the very least. And I think most likely we see Santana back. I think Choi probably gets a kind of like a Josh Bell type deal, and I doubt the Pirates want to spend their money there. And as much as great as Choi has been, especially coming back from injury, yeah, it is hard when you're on such a limited budget to sink resources into a league average first baseman. And that's unfortunate because for normal teams, Choi is just a nice depth signing or something like a supplemental signing you bring in and you bring on, and they are going to be a good, productive MLB player, but they're not the marquee signing. G-Man Choi would be the marquee signing of the Pirates and of the free agency. And so you probably don't want to do that with the first baseman. So I imagine they give Santana a very similar deal. But yeah. Santana's close. Hopefully we get him to 300 home runs. That'd be awesome. I will touch. But yeah, I mean, the offense was bad. I repeat, the offense was very bad. 3 home runs steals the deal. So what the Pirates need to do, I think, is to invest in more power and to be charitable. I think a game like today is kind of what Andy Haynes is going for, because Andy Haynes' in the hitting philosophy is wait for your pitch. Look at pitches. Don't swing at bad strikes. And wait for the ball that you can crush. And I think that works really well with guys like Jack Sawinski. It works for guys like Kutch. And on days like today, you get 3 home runs and you grind out a win. But you also see the downsides of this hitting philosophy, and they can't be ignored. Like, you strike out 10 times today again. You strike out a bunch of times yesterday. The Pirates don't have enough consistent power to be hitting like they need, like to be hitting the way that they want to be. It's like they're trying to take a square peg and fit it into a round hole. So, it's not great. And I think we're going to see a bad offense the entire way through, even with these new guys. Like, even if we think, Davis and Endy and Gonzalez are all going to be parts of the future, you're still going to have a lot of games where we just don't score a lot of runs. Yeah. So I'll move on, I guess, to the bullpen next. I don't know what else to keep saying about Majinski, because Majinski every single time he's on, he's good. He doesn't get a whole lot of high leverage. I'd say today was pretty close. But, I think he is such a consistent and nice bullpen piece. And I'm sure he's going to go through some regression. Like, I'm sure that's going to happen. But, I mean, so far he's pitched like 17 innings, gained about a strikeout per inning, a little less. He's not giving up a whole lot of hard hits or runs. And today was great. 11 pitches, 1 strikeout. Carmen, these are the type of people, these young guys that are failed starters. They got to be able to get you 1 inning. And since the team has struggled for 4 years to get guys just to get you through 1 inning, Carmen Majinski has just been a nice change of pace. So, and yeah, I think this is a good point. We the beginning of the year we did rely on the bullpen. The bullpen has been relied on ever since May, because the starting pitching hasn't gone 6 innings every game, and the pitching has been bad. So we have depended on them too much, but also
similar to last year.
Yep. Right? How you doing, Doug?
I'm good. Sorry I'm late. Excellent job so far.
Thank you.
Echo many of your comments. Right. I think we've done 4 shows together in July, and 3 of them have been victories.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly we're adding value. Our war is up to probably 6 now. You're right about Oviedo. I mean, he has to start on this team. He's the 3rd best pitcher right now, and probably an argument potentially for, when he's on, he's the 2nd best pitcher on this team. And I mean, he looked good today, but he didn't instill any confidence, right? It looks like one bad thing. It looks like if a mosquito bites him, in between innings, that may throw him off. He so easily just, gets into his head and too emotional he just needs to calm down and let his talent take over, because like you said, he's got a great pitch mix. He's got the frame to be a workhorse. This kid could really be a find. It could be one of Ben Cherington's best moves if they can develop him into a starting pitcher. And you're right. He's not going to the bullpen anytime this season.
No.
Things would have to be going really well for that to happen even next season, because again, how confident are you in Contreras, Ortiz, Quentin Priester, Max Kranick? So yeah, it's we're riding with Oviedo, and if Rich Hill gets traded by next Tuesday, he is the number 2 man in the rotation. So
it's just, I guess for me, it's like, who is trading? Like, who competing wants Rich Hill?
I don't know. I could see. I mean, you could see a good team, a team that can score runs, have him be the 5th starter. You're going to get 6 innings. He's going to give up 3 or 4 runs. If you're one of those teams like the Dodgers, the Braves that score runs, you can and don't need him to be laboring every single pitch because he's trying to be too fine, and just go out and let him pitch. I think he would help. I think he could help. Again, he's not going to be the guy you ride to the World Series.
Yeah, I can't even imagine he makes a postseason roster. Right. Like you cannot hand the ball to Rich Hill in Game 3 of the NLDS. You can't do that.
No,
the
but
pitching,
you could use him in sort of a bullpen type game, right? I mean, because they do that. They do that now. That happens in the playoffs consistently. You could have him and say, one time through, get us 3 innings, and that sort of thing, because they just want to give their 2 top dudes a rest and then get back to them as soon as possible. So I mean, there's a scenario where he could add value. I don't think we'll get anything. We'll get Eddie Yean for him.
I mean, that's the thing. Like I am 100% convinced he's gone. I think Choi is 100% gone too.
Right.
But I
heard you say, like, right, I would
hold on to them.
Yeah, I'd hold on to them too. We need some veteran presence. We need some good at bats. We need some potential pop. And I mean, I get it. You're right. Santana and Choi are not, they're not 20 home run hitters. They're 15 home run hitters, but that's better than most of what we have.
Yeah.
I mean, again, if we had a firm date on Cruz's return and we're sure that he was going to be 100% healthy, that, you say, all right, we've a little bit of a cavalry coming, but right now, I mean, again, there's nothing else in the minors that's going to come up. Miguel Andujar is not coming up to. I mean, he might be coming up, but he's not coming up to add any value.
Yeah, so they pretty much exhausted AAA, haven't they?
Yeah.
So I mean, Williams is kind of like the last guy, very early, but he looked awful today.
Yeah, he's.
I mean, to be fair, he had that incredible double play in the first inning,
right?
And then he drops the ball in left field.
Well, I tell you, Brian Reynolds, I'm not quite sure 2 years ago, right? Was it 2 years ago that he was a top 3 finalist for Gold Glove in center field? And I know the metrics didn't necessarily support that, but he was not bad. He was still pretty good.
Fangraphs loved his defense.
Right. Then he became a terrible center fielder. And now he seems to be a pretty bad left fielder, where, again, it's like, if he goes to left field, he'll be a Gold Glove. And I understand, I was listening to the radio feed. Matt Capps is saying, well, him and Williams, they don't know each other and they haven't. Brian Reynolds has got to take charge. And he took 2 steps back and then, sort of just backed off. I don't know what's going on with Brian Reynolds. He hit the solo home run today, but that almost frustrates me more, because where was that yesterday when you came up with the bases loaded and you came up with 2 guys on? I mean, that
was a pretty clutch home run, I'd say, though. I mean, gives the Pirates the lead.
Had to have it. All 3 of them. All 3 of them. I guess you said, and a common topic with us is the lack of power. And today we had what we often also have is lack of guys getting on base. Seth Lugo went his season high in innings and tied a career high in strikeouts. Yeah. That's a bad hitting team when Seth Lugo was doing those sort of things. I mean, you highlighted it. We were terrible offensively today. And every one of those solo home runs was, Choi's. I mean, everyone, Choi's gave us the lead. And then Brian Reynolds gave us the lead again. And then Santana gave us the run that we needed, because who knew that Bednar was going to walk in a run.
We haven't talked about that yet. So I mean, Colin Holderman does his job too. One in it, right? And then it'd be David Bednar, who probably had one of his worst outings of the year.
Yeah, 36 pitches too.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we're off tomorrow, so
thank God.
Man,
I mean,
that's
the only. I think that's the only reason he stayed out there for so long. I mean, you can't get mad at David Bednar.
No, right. The guy's got 16 saves in a row. He's got 20 saves now on the season. He, he's got an argument for being the MVP of the team, or or the best player on the team at this point. Most dominant at his position, that sort of thing. Most consistent for sure. So yeah, I mean, right.
He's just tanking his trade value so he doesn't leave.
Right. Yeah. And if his worst outing of the year results in a save, right, we have to take that.
Yeah,
I know we're not a show that's supposed to discuss these other things, but do you get the feeling that we leaked the fact that they're listening on Bednar and Keller is a way to negotiate? Like, hey, listen, David Bednar, we will ship you. We don't care if you're from Pittsburgh. Maybe you should sign that team-friendly deal we're about to put in front of you. And same thing with Keller. Hey, Mitch Keller, these last 11 starts, your ERA is almost 6. Maybe get the money while you can.
You're telling me that I can get shipped to a winning baseball team for years? I don't know. I don't know how great that. I don't know how great that negotiation tactic would go.
Oh, I don't.
But
Pirates aren't good at that sort of thing. But I just wonder if it's very odd that they would. I mean, and I'm sure they leaked that. I'm sure, right, that they put that out there.
I think the whole idea. I mean, unless like someone gets desperate, like a Diamondbacks, and they're sending you back Jordan Lawler, you don't deal Bednar. Like, what kind of message does it send if you're in year 4 of the rebuild? This is supposed to be the step year, like the year where you take the steps, and then you
trade your 2 all-stars.
You trade your top 5 closer in baseball.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I know. I mean, right. You have a very valid point for just about any other management team. This is Ben Cherington, and he doesn't care about the message to the fans. There is nobody down there that is concerned with selling tickets. There's nobody down there that is worried about what the public thinks or the fan base thinks. They are very smug and sure of their plan, and we are not smart enough to understand it, so they don't deign to tell it to us. You
can get your soft pretzel way faster at PNC Park now. Like,
I went and started going to games in the 80s, and it was empty. I'm like, I don't have to stand in line. I used to drive up to Montreal from Boston and go to games. It's the same, pay $5, sit behind home plate, and you didn't wait at any lines. There's some plus sides.
Yeah, no, I mean, I cannot. As much as I would like to diss Ben Cherington, I have to imagine that Keller and Bednar stick around. I just can't fathom them dealing them. It makes no sense.
Bednar makes some sense because I think somebody might overpay. I don't think people would overpay for Keller at this point. I could be wrong. Everybody's looking for starting pitching, but we don't have starting pitching.
No.
And you know what I'm saying? Ben Cherington's not very good at it, but most teams we can always find another closer. We just, we're only asking to get 3 outs, and then most of the time it's bases clear, that sort of thing. Closer is the easiest thing to create, from your own roster, let alone going outside. So you could see somewhere, and in a way that they could sort of pass that off. But an all-star starting pitcher, we'll never acquire one of those. We're never going to get one in free agency. It's unlikely that we'll be able to trade the prospects to get one. So the
closest we got was J Happ and Ivan Nova. And you're right. It's we're not going to acquire those. So Keller needs to stay. I mean, maybe they see Majinski.
Skeens can't pitch every day.
Maybe they see Majinski as the closer of the future, and they are okay with shipping off Bednar. But then you're just shipping off another bullpen arm.
Right.
And I know we just drafted a 500 college guys who were going to be relievers, but I
Right.
don't think they're going to be ready next
Yeah,
year. So
yeah, right. I mean, you have to get to a point, and right, wasn't it? Well, we say that 2024 was supposed to be the bridge year. I disagree with that. I mean, I don't think Ben Cherington. I think Ben Cherington is building for the 29 team. I think he has been from the start. He hasn't, told it to us. But when you look at the moves, and I mean, I think he thinks that, I mean, I sort of think he arrogantly wants to put together an entire team acquired by Ben Cherington through the draft and through trades. By accumulating all these prospects and these draft picks, that thing, and say, look, when people say they think the payroll is going to go up in the next couple of years, I don't think so. I don't think so, right? Because you're going to bring up Skeens and then Solometo and Jared Jones, right? They're not. I don't think they're going to go get a veteran pitcher. Where everyone's like, oh, sure, they have to get a veteran pitcher next year. I'm not so sure. And if it is, it's going to be a Velasquez $3 million type. It's not going to be.
It's hard because not only is the free agency market not great next year in terms of who's available, but I mean, to be fair, we did get a report from Mackey. It was I think it was back in March or April, where the Pirates are going to be shopping for in a different section of free agents.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, and to be fair, when Mackey was right about the amount of money that was spent last offseason. So I mean, I feel like payroll will go up. And I think I disagree. I don't think you extend.
I hope you're right.
I don't think you extend Reynolds if you're playing for 28. I don't think you. I don't think you even try to get guys like Santana or Hill in the door if you're not at least attempting to go for something in 24 and 25. And I don't know. Even with someone who doesn't care as much as Nutting doesn't care, I don't know if he's just okay with actively not trying or putting on the face of tanking for a decade.
I thought once they signed Kutch, I thought, okay, they're actually going to try this year because there's no way you would bring back Andrew McCutchen, in another tanking type, and forget tanking, even if you were punting, which I guess is not quite as bad as tanking, right?
Yeah.
But it would seem to me that if you're bringing back Kutch, who by all accounts, it seems like he'll want to be back next year, that you would not want to put him in this, morass of ineptitude. But the only position player I can see him signing is, you re-sign Hedges and a first baseman, maybe, right? Because your outfield is Connor Joe will probably still be here, and your outfield is going to be Reynolds, Sawinski, and Henry Davis. You're not going to sign a big, not a starting outfielder. You might get and I don't see them doing that. They'll stick with the Josh Palacios, I think, but Connor Joe before they would go get, some money. I mean, you could sign a second baseman, I suppose. But I don't think they're going to, right? You're still going to give Gonzalez, Peguero, Williams.
There's also no good second baseman on the market next year.
Right.
I think your best is Adam Frazier.
Yeah,
that's your ceiling. So,
right. I mean, maybe they trade, maybe they make a trade. I don't know, but I don't. Right? It just. Third base is covered. Hayes or Triolo, right? Shortstop is Cruz. First base.
To try to tie it into the game itself.
This is post-game show, folks.
Yeah. Because it's just weird because you look at guys like Triolo, Gonzalez, Williams, Peguero. Has any of them separated themselves?
Not yet. I mean, it's still early. They're still early in their major league careers.
Yeah.
You see some things you like, but I'm not ready to write them in pen for anything next year. I'm all for giving them an opportunity to compete. I wouldn't be mad if they brought in outside competition. But I would assume that next year Tamar Johnson's going to be in Double-A. At some point,
I think he gets up there this year. He's destroying A+ ball right now.
And you have Chang.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
but I mean, 1 for 9 today from Triolo, Gonzalez, Williams with 4 strikeouts. a lot of these guys, like all three of them, are pretty handy with the glove,
Right.
including Piguero. Like
Yeah.
they're actually like defensively, there's no complaints, but you can't have 4 middle infielders who can't hit.
Right. Right.
Unfortunately, something's got to give.
Triolo looks like a perfect utility player to me.
Yeah,
he can play any position well defensively, and it looks like he can go get a single at just about any time. You know what I'm saying? Like because he now if you're don't bring him up hoping for even a double. He's got no pop whatsoever, and the only thing he can seem to do is sort of just pop that bat out there and drop it over the second baseman's head. But that can come in valuable, right? That can come in handy, especially as good as defensively he is.
I agree. And, like he's a guy like who's definitely established himself the most.
Right.
Where the defensive flexibility is real. Like I think you don't have to play Connor Joe at second base if Hayes is back. Right. But I don't know, like, none of those guys. And so, like, if the price wasn't Mitch Keller for someone like Jonathan India, which was reported today, I would love the Pirates to go out and get Jonathan India.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
3 years of control,
a proven, good offensive player, a scrappy, hustle, heart, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we will probably not get him. He's in division, and I think Ben likes his internal options more.
I do. I mean, I really think that's what he wants to do. He wants to build as much of this from within as possible. And I mean, that's great if you could do it, but the very best rebuilds have done, it's 80% from within, but then they go get John Lester or Justin Verlander, and and that sort of helps with some of the youthful growing pains, right? And we know absolutely we're not doing that. So Paul Skeens.
One last thing about the game is that the umpiring was awful.
Yeah. I've come to terms with it.
We would not, like, clearly was not explaining to Oviedo what he was doing wrong correctly. Right. Sawinski intentionally gets hit, doesn't get ejected, even though the umpires should have met. But because Sawinski didn't jump up and down like Manny Machado, nothing happens. Inconclusive evidence. Overturned Davis' stolen base at third. They still call him out.
Yeah, that was. I mean, again, I was just listening to the radio feed, but they were like, "I see nothing." And Matt Capps kept saying, "Look, if they had called him out, there's nothing to overturn it and say he's safe." I mean, it's just it's inconclusive. So usually you ride with the the call on the field.
But I will say, it's last night's game, but I was not a huge fan of Perdomo coming in. I love Perdomo now.
Yeah.
And I am shocked that Derek Shelton hitting the instant win button by standing up for his players didn't work.
Maybe he'll go flip a table or something now.
Yeah. Well, I think the Pirates have the day off. Yeah, the Pirates have the day off tomorrow.
Yes, they're off tomorrow. So they won. They won a series. I think you said it. The last time they won a series was against San Diego. So
yes, it was.
Maybe
it's been about a month.
Yeah.
So hopefully you start.
We're
winning
still ahead
games.
of last year's pace.
It's so hard not to be.
Especially with a 20-8 start, right? With a 20-8 start, last year's pace should have never come into. We should never had to have a discussion about how far ahead we are of last year's pace. But
maybe we can now win back-to-back games for the first time since June.
This team really needs a win streak. Not even, 4 or 5 games. Just a little win streak to sort of, I don't know, a little equilibrium return.
Yeah, come out to the ballpark this weekend. We play the Phillies. It's Yinzer Palooza. David Bednar bobblehead plays Renegade.
What? It plays Renegade?
No way.
I had no idea.
Yeah. North Shore 9 exclusive.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks.
But thank you for tuning. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a good rest of your night.
We'll see you guys Friday.
Yep, and let's go Bucks.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page. It helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.